Thousands of Louisiana citizens, teachers, parents, and business folks showed up at the Louisiana Capitol Wednesday to have their say on education reform. Southern Ed Desk reporter Sue Lincoln has our story.
This was the scene inside House Committee Room 1 as the House Education Committee heard the first bill in Governor Bobby Jindal's education reform plan. Outside the Capitol, it was a different story. The Capitol steps were a sea of crimson as teachers and parents opposing parts of the governor's education reform plan wore red for ed. At least 4 school districts canceled classes because so many teachers had asked for personal time to attend the hearing. Daryl Roberson teaches business at Northwood High, driving in from Shreveport for the committee meeting.
I think teachers understand now that we have to become political. For a long time, we've just kind of sat on the sidelines and let things happen. And I think now we understand that we have to become a part of the process.
Destiny Cooper, an English teacher at McKinley High in Baton Rouge, explains why she came to the Capitol.
Teaching is a profession, and I feel like our voices have not been allowed to be heard in reform. I also feel that it's unfair for people who are not in our profession to govern it.
Derlin Anselay, a history teacher at Westlake Middle School, came in from Calcasieu Parish.
Well, we want reform, but we want reform in education, but we'd like to have an input and a voice in that. This has just been hastily put together and implemented. What's the rush?
Inside, the process was not rushed. Anticipating a big crowd, the House canceled all other committee meetings for the day and opened those rooms to handle overflow. More than 1,000 people signed up to speak. Committee members took testimony and discussed amendments for over 11 hours before voting on the first bill, House Bill 976. Subtitled School Choice, it provides for the rapid multiplication of charter schools in Louisiana and makes vouchers available statewide. The first motion, to alter standard committee procedure, gave a preview of which way the vote would ultimately go. Republican Nancy Landry of Lafayette made the motion.
In addition to stating your name and address and what organization you're with, that you also state whether you're here on in a professional capacity, in a personal capacity on a personal day, or if you took sick leave from your job to be here today to testify.
Democrats Patricia Smith and Alfred Williams, both of Baton Rouge, objected.
This is an atrocity to ask individuals who come before any committee as to whether or not they are on a leave or on sick leave.
What this is an effort to try to scare folks from testifying.
This is the people's house. It is not anyone else's house but the people's.
The vote was 10-8 to ask those testifying how they arranged the time off to attend. Then testimony began, with proponents of school choice up first. Leading off was Governor Bobby Jindal.
Educational reform is not about the adults. It is about the children. This is not about the next poll. This is not about the next election. This is about the next generation.
State Education Superintendent John White explained the 50-page bill, and a number of members of the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education spoke in favor of the measure. Bessie member Jim Garvey was one of them.
Rather than having a staff person at the central office across town making the decision about what school is best for a particular child, I think the parent is in a much better position to make that decision, and I think they ought to be allowed to make that decision, and that's what's driving my motivation for these bills.
Louisiana Federation of Teachers President Steve Monahan suggested Mr. Garvey needed to go back and study the bill some more, because that's not exactly how the bill, or even State Superintendent John White says the voucher program will work.
The parent will select a number of schools that decide they want to participate. In the state, the mean old, big old state will assign them to a school. That's not parent choice.
Parent Christy Cormier of Lake Charles says school choice sounds good on the surface, but private and parochial schools that would accept the vouchers won't be required to accommodate special needs students. Cormier's daughter has a visual impairment and needs large print textbooks. Private and parochial schools would not be required to provide them.
We kind of liken it to, it's telling a child, yes, you can come to this school, but since you're in a wheelchair, you're going to have to leave your wheelchair at the door and walk up the stairs to be able to access it.
Despite a preponderance of testimony opposing the bill, House Education Committee Chairman Steve Carter, the bill's author, was determined to get it passed on to the full House. Committee member efforts to break the 50-page measure down into multiple bills were stymied, as were motions to suspend discussion and reconvene on Saturday. After more than 11 hours of testimony, the committee suspended all further discussion and voted on moving the bill itself. 6 of the 7 Democrats on the committee opposed the bill. The 11 Republican members and the committee's Democratic vice chair voted to send the bill on to the House floor. For the Southern Education Desk, I'm Sue Lincoln.
The House Education Committee also approved a bill to restrict teacher tenure, and the Senate Education Committee has advanced the upper chamber's version of these 2 same bills. The full House and full Senate could each debate these bills as early as next week.